Okay, I guess we are ready. Sorry for our lateness. We had a work session prior to this. So it is 5:10, and I will call the Monday, August 14th Board of Education meeting to order. If you would all please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Would you now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Director Johnson will be reading our mission statement.
Our mission, the Waterloo Schools community commits to a comprehensive system of education and support to assure that each and every student will graduate prepared for college, career, and citizenship as evidenced by continuing education, pursuing a career path, and contributing to our community.
Thank you very much. And this evening, we have a couple new faces up here on our board table here. We have Jeff Sommerfeld, who is working as our finance person, and he's been with the district for many, many, many years. He's very skilled and excellent, and Michael is off on a leave of absence for a short time, so Jeff will be joining us for multiple meetings. So welcome, Jeff, and we won't try to stump you. And then we also have Dr. Sue, as you prefer to be called, and she has joined us just in July. And so July 13th, and she is the associate interim for the year associate superintendent. So we all look forward to working with you, and we've heard wonderful things about you. So we welcome your input at the table. So with that said, now I would ask it all if there's anyone in our audience this evening that would like to present any information to the board. You can come to the microphone. If not, then we will go right on to our next item agenda, and that would be the Volunteer Iowa Grant Award to Pre-K-12 Life Lab Program, and that is on page Exhibit A, sorry. I am not being able to scroll. Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, I think I'm going to go back to paper copy right now. I apologize. Thank you for being here, and you are ready to go, and I have not got the motion on the table. So the superintendent's recommendation is that the Board of Education accepts and acknowledges with gratitude the $15,000 grant from the Volunteer Iowa to support pre-K-12 Life Lab programming for 23-24 school year.
So moved.
Second.
And discussion, please.
Sure. So this is one of two focus areas for the Life Lab program. So Life Lab is the experiential and service learning arm of the district, entering our 5th year. Up to this point, we have focused primarily on those field trip experiences that serves PK through 12. Every single year, our students get to experience. This year and the forthcoming years, we're really doubling down on the service learning aspect. So we have already launched some trainings for our teachers. Our second round is tomorrow, which really explains the model of service learning as it incorporates into the curriculum and really listening in and leaning into our community members.
Are there any questions regarding Lyle? Do you have a couple?
Yeah, of course. First of all, what's the field trip schedule for this coming year compared to what it has been? And then secondly, could you expound on what service learning actually is?
Sure. So service learning is an approach to learning for our students that tunes into what they're already doing with their curriculum content of science, math, reading, and literacy, and how they can use those content areas to address a concern of our community. They know that many community organizations and individuals help them, whether it's an individual, them as an individual or their family, and we know that students like to be a part of something larger than themselves. So with the help of conversations in the classroom and guidance of the classroom teachers, together they will go through a series of prompts, understanding their community, under having a research component, and through either direct or indirect or advocacy, they can give back and support their community. Part 2, the Life Lab experiences for each grade, hasn't really changed since the last time we had the conversation. Some of the things that we are tweaking and making better, we continue to look at that high school model so that students have a choice as to what tracks to choose your own adventure based on the theme. So again, we're still exploring the job shadow experience in 10th grade. Students get to choose what type of career pathway they want to explore, and really wanting to spend a little bit more time and effort on the 12th grade theme, which we launched last year for the very first time. That theme is civic responsibility, civic engagement. We launched that for the first time, learned some things, and we'll be improving that experience overall.
So will does every student experience a field trip?
Correct. Yep, so this is for all students. They have equitable access all the way from PK all the way up to 12th grade, yep. Yep.
So so this 10th grade is job shadow, so this is individualized?
Correct. So with the platform of the Zello online career platform, one of the lessons in 9th grade has them choose a career that they wish to explore more information. So some students, I think the minimum is 3, and they go up to maybe 6 or 10. So they are very specific fields, such as a nail technician, such as a marine biologist, a zookeeper, marketing strategist, and we have that data already, and I've already started condensing those pathways, kind of cluster them into the same career choice, and then individually making it more meaningful and finding those business partners to support that job shadow experience in November.
How many different businesses or different options are given for job shadowing? Like, how many were last year? How many different options were there?
Last year, we launched for the very first time and focused more on students choosing the service area, such as STEM or human services. And this year, we're starting from scratch. So again, the Zello platform of them choosing a very specific narrow niche of a career, and then finding that business to best support that.
Who's
So there's no
responsible?
limit- I'm sorry, there's no limit then on how many different businesses you can pull? Is that what you're going to, I mean, if you just have one kid who's interested in, like, mortuary science or whatever, would you reach out just for that one child, or do you need groups?
Correct. Good question. So it is like a game of Tetris, because we have over 700 students who might have actually had up to 2,000 different career pathways. So we got to funnel it down so it's manageable, and placing students in that cluster of that industry. So it's a financial institution, it's cosmetology, it's STEM, and then figuring out scheduling and busing with that. So to reiterate, it's an exposure where that student gets a 2-hour job shadow experience. And then from there, we'll hopefully launch some other questions and pathways through the Zello platform, and linking it to other courses at the high school and also at the WCC.
So who is responsible for making those contacts with our business partners and finding those gaps?
Yeah,
You alone?
so far, yeah.
Okay.
It's been really exciting to see.
Sure.
I've gotten to know these students by name and on paper of what they're really interested in, and I can't wait to meet them. not all at the same time, but just, we have a marine biologist in the middle of Iowa that's interested in that pathway. Musicians, recording artists, a lot of professional athletes, a lot of STEM careers, and we want to showcase what is available in the Cedar Valley, and then also showcase if that's something that, again, if you're interested, here are some opportunities here in the Waterloo Community School District to explore that, or if it wasn't their jam or not what they were thinking of, then now you know.
So what's been the response of business and industry? What's their level of interest?
We have a lot of repeat customers or businesses from last year when we first launched. And there are some industries that we're still trying to figure out. But the conversations that we've already been having, some of them are already existing partners with the school district, and some of them have been wanting to find a good way to partner with the school district. So we're finding some new ones and also utilizing some existing partnerships as well.
And we have good alignment with our career center pathways. in this.
Absolutely.
I kind of wanted to go back for a minute to what, Stacy, to your question, and it just reminded me, I had the opportunity to chaperone last year, which was really, really awesome to have that experience. But I was over at the childcare center with a bunch of just big group of kiddos. And one young man wanted to own his own business someday. And the value that he got from this was seeing how important it would be for a business owner to offer childcare. So some of those parallels that you don't even necessarily see when they're trying to fit into a certain pathway, that this just really expanded out to a world of opportunity for him. So it's really a great experience.
Very cool.
I am grateful that we are getting monies toward being able to do this, but how much is actually the program itself?
Last fiscal year, Life Labs was hovered around that $640,000.
Okay.
And did that include like all the experiences, like they went to Dubuque, the baseball game, that type of thing?
Correct.
Okay.
How much of that was transportation?
Around $200,000, which includes both the public or school transportation and charter buses.
And is that sustainable
In which way?
financially?
Is it sustainable to keep on having that itemized?
What's your forecast in future years as to the cost of the program?
I would imagine, just as many departmental budgets and program budgets, it will continue to increase because of our community partners. We use a lot of nonprofits, for-profits. As they continue with their business models, we will all naturally see an increase.
So that was the 628, that's the total cost without considering the grants.
Correct. That's the program cost.
Okay. And how much of that was grants?
This past year?
Yeah. About how much?
Yeah. So fiscal '23, 46% was grants.
Okay.
And I think on the next exhibit, we will see the differentiation of the funding.
Yeah.
So. Okay, any other questions regarding the Iowa Grant Award? Okay, seeing none, all in favor then of accepting that, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 6-0. Our next item is that the Board Superintendent's recommendation is that the Board of Education accept and acknowledge with gratitude the $200,000 grant from the R.J. McElroy Trust to support pre-K 12 through 12 Life Lab programming for year 24 and 25 and 26.
So moved.
Second.
And we have Amy again, and I think that does show the breakdown of the funding on there. Thank you for that information. And the McElroy Trust has been very supportive of our Life Lab program. I mean, very supportive. I want to give them a huge shout out because I think they've seen the benefits of how this program affects our students and for the betterment of their lives. Some of them have never been on a bus, outside of a school bus,
Right.
so.
Clarification, it doesn't, the recommendation itself doesn't say whether the 200,000 is per year or total.
I would
It's
say
per
to
year,
me
I
it's.
think.
No, I was thinking,
It could be reworded to say gratitude, the $200,000 grant per year.
yeah. It is. The letter says per year.
Okay, great.
200,000 per year for the next 3 years. Mhm. So, yeah, that would be correct, Lyle.
We may want to correct or modify the
Yeah.
Recommendation.
Yeah.
motion.
So just,
Kind of-
yeah,
Kind of a big difference.
yep.
Yeah.
So it's a $600,000 grant
Yeah.
for the 200,000 per year. So who motioned?
Me and
India.
India.
So,
Agreeable,
Alright.
yes.
Yes, I agree. Amend.
That's really a tremendous
yeah.
gift, yeah.
So I just want to say that I was with Amy when she delivered the presentation to the McElroy trustees, and she did a great job. We're very I mean, it was a very well-done professional presentation. The trustees were very impressed. They really want to support the program. They see the value in it. You did a great job of talking about the service learning push. And so, yeah, so having been in that room, they're very supportive of it. They want to see it continue. And they also, Lyle, you brought up a good question. Transportation was absolutely part of the conversation. And quite honestly, I don't want to go too far off, but, we've had some early conversations with First Student about how we can partner together on some of these field trips, because it's tough. Like, we want to give these kids unique experiences, which end up taking them across the state or across state lines. Yet we've talked at length about the lack of access to buses. So the transportation is a good question, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. The costs are going up, but it's also one opportunity for some of these kids to experience some of these opportunities. So it's going to be a conversation we continue to have. Our first priority, our first ask is going to be a First Student. Can they help us out? And if not, we're getting creative with how we get those kids bused. So I just want to be clear on that.
But the more flexible we can be to fit into the First Student schedule, it seems like there would be a lot of value in that coordination. If we have to tweak 20 minutes this way or that way to allow them to use regular buses prior to or after their normal delivery, it seems like that would be the most cost-effective solution.
And we were able to do that right away when we relaunched, what was that, 2020, of when I came on board and realizing, staying away from the morning and the afternoon shifts. Okay, this is the parameter, this is where it's going to fall in, to be able to be flexible with that.
And sometimes you can flex, sometimes you can't,
Right.
but when you can, you should.
There might be opportunity where we look at we talk about our extra routes, our non-student routes, and how we get some flexibility within our district to offer different services for those that kind of fall out of getting kids to and from school, but how these extra routes handle, and
Yep.
more internal staff that can support that maybe.
Would Waterloo Metro, is that what it's called, the busing system? Do we ever partner with them? Are they able to provide transportation services at a cost that we could afford? Or, I don't know, just curious. But I did want to ask, so when they go to a lot of these things, sometimes like they go to the art museum, they need tickets, or show the baseball game. Do any of those places provide those without cost, or do we have to pay full price, or?
Many of our experiences, PK through 12, is no cost for admission.
Cool.
Some of them do cost for admission, and or group admission, and then I would say that, thank you, we are bringing you a significant amount of students. Where can we drop that a little bit?
Wheel
I
and
just
deal.
had an email that said, hey, let's see if we can negotiate on this, so,
Thank you, Amy.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, and I'll chaperone some, just get a hold of me, okay?
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
And also, I mean, if we would need to, we could always do creative kind of fundraising for things too, like support a bus or take a bus to the ball game or, you know, something like that. You could do a creative marketing aspect of it too.
Yep.
And then also, I was just thinking, do we ever utilize the bus driver as a career option? You know, for kids? You know, because that would be really a cool thing too, that like, any interested could sit by the bus driver, and this is what we do. And-
Absolutely. And all of these experiences, you know, one of the 5 goals is that career exposure. So hopefully that conversation is happening, that what type of careers did we see today on our way to the Mississippi River Museum? We saw construction workers, we saw bus drivers, we saw, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, any other questions for Amy then?
And I do agree that we've been very fortunate and blessed to have the support of McElroy from the beginning of the launch of the program, the pilots. And just as Executive Director Megan McKenzie said, that this is the largest programmatic grant in the history of McElroy Trust, right here for Waterloo Schools. So they're not only a tremendous financial partner, but also a community partner. So I've had many conversations with Megan and Shanley and the trustees of just the impact of this and for the greater good of our community, so.
Megan's letter was just so cool. It just was. It just made my heart sing, the genius inside every student, you know? And then their total number, that 2.1 million, it's a significant chunk of change. So yes, I agree. Thank you to them, and thank you for coordinating all that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And the positive is it's every student, you
Yes.
know, there's no exclusions.
Nope.
It's every student.
Agreed.
So-
Yeah, there's no more PTOs raising money, so this school can go,
Yep.
yeah.
So, thank you very much, Amy. So we will now vote on the amended motion that the Board of Education accept and acknowledge with extreme gratitude the $600,000 grant from the R.J. McElroy Trust to support pre-K-12 Life Lab programming for 24, 25, and 26 school years.
300,000 grant per year, right?
I said
Oh, $600,000, okay.
$600,000 grant.
Oh, you're gonna do
Yeah,
600.
That was the amended motion.
Okay.
Yeah, for the 3 years. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries 5-0 with great gratitude. Thank you very much, Amy. Okay, our next item on the agenda is the Stronger Connections Grant, and that is Exhibit C, and Zach Kelly is here to inform us on that, and I just passed it. And I'll get the motion on the table in just a moment. The superintendent's recommendation is that the Board of Education accept and acknowledge with gratitude the $327,816 Stronger Connections Grant from the Iowa Department of Education to update security cameras throughout the district.
So moved.
Second?
And Zach and Dan, we just heard a wonderful presentation on safety throughout the district. If you would tell us about this exciting news.
Yeah, so as you had mentioned, Dan, up in here, talking about the grant for the Stronger Connection. So there was multiple departments that were asked to be a part of this, and we chose this grant just because it dealt with security cameras. So we were awarded the $327,000, 816 grant, which covers, looking to do mostly security cameras in the high schools, and then utilizing our $50,000 safety security grant, which Dan has in the works for the elementary schools, just because the high schools, there's going to be a big cost up front. Roughly each school, West High, and for example, has 150 cameras, and we will probably be adding some blind spots in as well. So those high schools are going to be a big portion of this cost. So, any questions or?
Can you just explain, I mean, you kind of did, but just so we everybody knows the difference between these cameras versus what we already have, like what they'll do.
Yep, so these will be IP-based cameras. They all take a Cat 6, and that Cat 6 also provides power over Ethernet. So it's just one cable directly from the network switch in a location, and then the quality is a lot better, just versus right now we have a lot of analog, so it's coax, and the resolution isn't the best. So these IPs, we're looking at like a 5 megapixel, which is a really clear image.
Is there like software or anything that goes with it? Like, we were talking about the smart cameras, like what it can do. So is that part of the camera, or is there separate software? Or?
There is a separate software that we already have implemented. So it'll work with the cameras that we specify. There's multiple manufacturers that'll work with the software that we have, so.
So these are connected to the coax also?
These will be connected to Cat 6. So currently, we've got, at our older schools, we've got analog, which is coax,
Yeah,
and they go into an analog encoder, which converts it back out to an IP address via Cat 6. So each device has a little module that converts it from analog to IP.
is this over and above the 50,000?
This, yes, correct. Yep, it will be. This is completely different.
Totally different, yeah.
This is completely different from the $50,000 safety grant.
But they're supplementary.
They are completely two separate grants right now.
But used for the same purpose?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, the 50 is going to be used for all
50
kinds
can
of
use
stuff.
for different things, yeah. But one
Including
of them.
cameras.
Yeah,
Yep,
but it not necessarily cameras.
Yes.
Yes, it can be used for other things.
yep.
So it's 327. How many cameras do y'all think you'll be able to get for that? Have you looked at?
So this will include installation costs too. Okay. And it will include a couple servers that we're gonna need, which I've been in contact with Matt with the IT department. But this will include the hard drives itself for the storage as well.
And I want to commend Matt, or Zach, and his team, because there was about 2 weeks to get this done. And they were only going to give out 8 across the state, based on 8 within the larger size schools. They said, like small schools, we'll give out maybe 20, medium, maybe 15, and larger schools, 8 school districts got selected. So there's a lot more than 8 schools that are our side or larger. So it was really good that we were able to secure that funding, and it allows us to, in places like West and other places, to focus of the $50,000 on different things than just the cameras. So that's going to be very important that we're now able to do. If we don't need to buy the cameras all at East and West, we can buy more things and put in for more things with the $50,000.
This won't go for Expo. Is Expo like already covered, or? We just-
Currently, Expo actually purchased some analog HD cameras last year, so,
Got ya.
yep.
Excellent work in getting this done, and this is just super for our schools to be able to receive this grant in the first place, and then all these extra dollars. I mean, good work.
Good investment in
job.
school safety.
Yep, we're excited. I know that's kind of the big topic, is just camera quality, so we're excited to update them.
Zach, did you have to write this grant proposal?
I did.
He's getting so good.
Every day is a day in progress, so.
That's right. Yes, well, thank you so much for all your efforts. It's just going to be wonderful to have that, so. Any other questions then? All right, then, all in favor of accepting the Stronger Connections Grant, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Our next item on our agenda tonight is Exhibit D, and this is a cooperative sponsorship agreements, and we have Mr. Huff here again, and this is for information only, but did any board members have any questions? It's the annual renewals between the smaller surrounding schools that do not have the sports provided for their students, and they're able to compete with West and East High. So any questions for Mr. Huff on this?
These are all renewals, and Director, or President Flynn said it right, these are mainly helping out smaller schools that don't have swimming pools, don't have bowling alleys, to be able to participate in those. It's totally up to us to whether we say yes or no. There's no thing that says we have to do it. Our biggest share that has the most is Waterloo Christian, and since they're within our district, since their physical boundary, school is within our district, they pretty much have to share with Waterloo West.
And I was wondering on that, they were going to start a football program, an 8-man program?
They did.
They did,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't know
That's
if they...
probably why that football is not listed. It
So
had been.
would the athletes, though, that wanted to participate in 11-man football be able to come to West High, or
It's
do
a
they
great
have?
question. I don't know for sure, but my sense thinks no.
Okay.
It's one or the other.
Okay, thank you.
About how many students participate?
I would say our biggest one is swimming and bowling, and they may get 5 or 6, 7 swimmers and maybe 3 or 4 bowlers. The other ones, it's a one here, a one there. Some of them travel like a little bit farther than others. There's some, like, if you're a small school, and let's just say you, like, Wapsie, like soccer, I don't see one on here anymore, but like Dunkerton boys soccer, they're sharing with East. The reason they probably wouldn't share with like a Denver or any of those is because you take the kids that are in 9th through 11th grade at Dunkerton, add them to the kids that are in 9 through 11 at Denver, it probably bumps Denver up to a class. Since we're already the largest class, anybody we get doesn't bump us to the next class.
So if one of those kids, goes to state, do they go to state under our name or their name?
They go under our name.
Okay.
Sometimes the media might say, hey, there's this kid who does this, for that, for West, but yeah, they are contributing to the Waterloo East or Waterloo West programs.
I'm just
No, I mean,
joking a little, 'cause it's
it's
great.
like, hey,
Yeah.
we've had some state champ divers, and we've had some, bowlers who've done well, so,
It's a win-win.
yeah.
Okay, anything else for Mr. Huff? All right, thank you so much. Appreciate your time
Thank you.
tonight, and thank you for the presentation earlier. Appreciate that. The next item on our agenda tonight is our consent agenda, which tonight consists of 10 items. Item E is the minutes of the July 10th, 2023 regular board meeting and the July 17th and July 20th special board meetings. Item F is the personal appointments and adjustments. Item G is the bills due and payable between board meetings. Item H is donations from the Community Foundation of Northeast Iowa. Item I is the joint education service agreement between Hawkeye Community College and the Waterloo Community School District. Item J is the Leader in Me agreement. Item K is the Spark Wheel Memorandum of Understanding. Item L is the IJAG Memorandum of Understanding. Item M is the West High School Gym Floor Replacement Change Order Number 3. And lastly, item N, the Central Middle School Remodel Waterloo Career Center Expansion Project Change Order Number 16. Are there any of these items board members would like to have removed?
H is in hound.
J is in Juliet, K kilo, and N November.
F as in Frank.
F is in Frank. And then
No, sorry, yes, F is in Frank.
personnel,
Yeah.
okay. And I wanted item M. So that leaves, I would entertain a motion to approve item E, which is the minutes, item G, which is the bills due and payable, item I, which is a joint education service agreement between Hawkeye and the district, and item L, which is the IJAG Memorandum of Understanding. Could I have a motion to accept those items, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. So the first item would be item F, and this is the personnel appointments and adjustments. And I will start out getting on this page.
The board. You want me
I
to do
will
it?
go to my written, yeah, go ahead.
Sure. The superintendent's recommendation is the Board of Education approve the personnel items as listed. May I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion.
I know that Anthony's not here, but I just want to know, from where we've been doing interviews and things of that nature, how are we filling spots and areas? What do we have left to fill? What are the hard spots, things of that nature?
Yep, so we actually had a, this is timely, we had a good conversation this morning. We're still sitting, and it's gonna sound a little high, but I can explain this. We're still sitting at about 30 certified openings. Now, a large number of those are special education, which we're already making adjustments to just kind of shifting people around, adding to caseloads. This is not uncommon to previous years, being short on special ed. One area which we talked about this morning that is of concern is that East High, we're down 3 math teachers. So we are looking at a number of options on how to fill those gaps for those courses. We're looking at how could we, we were talking about overloading teacher schedules, which would be something where if they have a planning period, we can pay them extra to pick up a period. We're looking at different staff inside the building who might be able to shift over and pick up a class or two. We're talking about perhaps looking at just if we need to look outside the building at other positions, maybe schools that are full with staff who can move a math teacher up or cover a couple periods. So there's that. We still have a couple elementary openings, which is a little bit of a, kind of later in the game resignations. But we had a really good staffing meeting where we kind of shifted around to best meet the needs of the in terms of student numbers. But
I'm sorry, when you mean shifting around, you mean shifting the teachers, not the kids, right? Is that-
Yeah,
Okay,
teachers.
just making
I'm
sure.
sorry.
No.
Yep, teachers. So there was a good elementary staffing meeting with all the elementary principals last week where they looked at classroom sizes, sections per building, and then at that point, and we quite honestly, we hate in August moving anybody from one building to another, but and sometimes it has to happen, and that happens in elementary school when we look at numbers, and the registration numbers are much higher in one building than the other. So we do have a staffing meeting set up for Friday morning, because at what point do you say we're just not going to be able to fill these positions? I mean, it's August 14th, let's be honest. So how do we still meet the needs of our students if we can't find certified employees? So what we're talking about is if we can't find, I'm just going to use special ed as the example. If we can't find special ed teachers, how do we still support students without maybe a certified teacher? Meaning, do we add para support to that classroom? So if there was, for example, if there was, I'm just making this up, but if there's a classroom with maybe 2 special ed teachers and we can't find that second teacher, could we add 2 paras to help support that one teacher? Mm-hmm. So we're looking at every option available. And it's not just us. I was at a UN meeting last week with Davenport, with Des Moines, with Cedar Rapids, with Sioux City. I feel like, quite honestly, we're in a little bit better position than a lot of those schools who are talking more than 50 openings. I think Davenport was at 100. I think Sioux City was at 80 when I spoke with them. So
Is there, you give the example about maybe adding 2 pairs to a classroom. Is there an incentive for them to go into the classroom? 'Cause, I mean, there is a point you don't want to burn out any of our teachers, and so, what's the incentive to, as a parent to go into a classroom when they might have already been in a classroom or been with a student that they've been used to, for the last year and a half? I don't know.
So when I make sure I say that correctly, so we would be creating 2 new para positions where we would hire externally. So we would not be moving around paras within the building. It'd be like, we need additional bodies.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay.
Yeah. We're also talking about, I appreciate Stacy and Astor had the conversation about family support workers. We've had that conversation. Family support worker is, and I'm just using that as an example, is an easier position for us to fill because the state is, the requirements to fill that position are much looser. It doesn't require a teaching license. That can be just, we've got some minimal requirements for that. But again, it comes down to how do we know we've got the money budgeted. And I did the numbers, 40 positions. If you say 40 positions, that's about $2.5 million that we've got budgeted for certified staff. If we can't fill those positions, which it's looking unlikely, at least for most of them, how do we reallocate that money to make sure we're meeting the needs of our students this year? So it's not the easiest, but I will say, speaking with other large school superintendents, like this is an issue across the state. It's not a Waterloo thing.
So how good a feel do you think we have for our staffing compared to anticipated students?
I feel, we're continuing to see kind of the numbers, the enrollment, in terms of, I shared some of the open enrollment numbers with you. They're up a little bit, just like they are each year. I still feel good. It's hard for us to tell. We've talked a little bit about how the vouchers are going to impact us. I feel good. It's really the biggest concern right now is that the special ed piece. About how are we going to be able to serve all those students at a high level? Megan and Amanda is our new special ed coordinator, have been working tirelessly to make sure that our IEPs are being covered. We actually did a lot of training last week to make sure progress monitoring was still happening even if we're down staff. So I feel pretty good right now. Again, we'll see come day one. We'll make adjustments. We'll do what we need to do. But conversations are happening daily on how to best meet the needs given our staff.
Have we done any type of push to reach out to recent retirees with incentives to come back?
I don't know if we've done an actual post. I will say, like, phone calls and messages to retirees are happening a lot. Or people who've left the district. I just called the ex-employee a few days ago to see if she'd be interested in coming back. You will notice one of the hires that we are, and I don't mind using his name because we all love him, is Bob Plagge, who retired from WCC. He thought we don't have that position filled. That's a very tough position to fill. We reached out to him, we brought him back. So those conversations are happening we're saying, hey, who left your building in the last few years? Who could you possibly reach out to see maybe, you just had that 1 year off and you start to miss it. Sue might be a prime example here, right?
People just can't retire,
Yeah. So I would say, what they're hearing from the district office is be creative. Think outside the box. Brainstorm. Think of who out there could fill our positions. And we are also working with the BOEE. If the person doesn't have that license, how can we work to get them that emergency license for 1 year? So I guarantee every option, and this was the meeting we had this morning, was how do we fill these spots?
I know we've talked about student teachers and trying to get them into positions. Something that you and I have spoken about is growing our own. So we have a lot of paras who are currently in school. And I know when my friend lived in Minnesota, they had paras, and then they also had a step higher. They were called educational teaching assistant. It was higher than a para, just because with the education they had, or the education they were pursuing, that they were like a para plus. I don't know how else to call it. I'm just, could we maybe start exploring what our paras have? And if we do need to bring somebody else in to cover, because we had the 2 rooms with 2 special ed teachers and 1 is gone, that we could bring these people in and then grow them. I know this is like a pie in the sky. It's just, there's some different things that maybe we could explore.
And I think I shared with you during our meeting earlier.
Yeah.
You know, Sam Kressig, we brought him
Yeah.
on board, Associate Director of Human Resources. One of his, as we went through jobs, duties, responsibilities last week, his number one, and it may not have been intentional, but his number one thing was recruitment, grow your own,
Yeah.
grow your own, filling vacancies. So like, he's gonna have a laser-like focus on what are some outside-the-box ideas that are going on in other districts that we could adopt here in our school district as well.
And with that said, there does have to be caution, because sometimes if you put someone that is not, you know, it could burn them out to never want to do that again also.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so that, there's the reverse side of that too, so.
Any idea how many teachers are getting or going for like the raffle, like,
I don't know.
you know,
If Anthony or Sam were here, they could probably answer better than I. You know, that's been something that's been pushed a lot, but you don't hear about a large, there's a lot of work that goes in, a lot of money up front that has to be paid to get in that program.
I'm sorry, what's it called? I couldn't.
RAPPL, it's
What's
through
that?
the Iowa
Rapid
regions,
licensure,
I don't think it's quite been as, there's a handful of examples, but I don't think it's been this huge windfall of,
I've seen a few come in, but I didn't know how, you know, like, you know, I've seen we've had some successes with that, but I don't know how, I mean, like, I wonder how many people are out there that maybe have degrees that don't know that if it's a little bit of work, they could be teachers, they wanted to teach, or they're not happy with their current career pathway, or maybe they're not, maybe their current career pathway didn't kind of pan out, that they're making as much money as they wanted to with that type of degree or some type, you know, that could be able to, you know,
Yeah.
to be an educator and just don't know it, you know, so.
Well, I guess with all of our input, we support any type of incentive or program or new program to get people in those positions, so
I guess the
that would
takeaway,
be-
I just want to be clear, like 30 sounds alarming when you hear that. Keep in mind, we have 19 buildings, so if you spread that across each building, you know, an average of 1 or 2 per building, we're usually able to make that work. And even special ed, it's not ideal, but we're able to shift some kids around in terms of caseloads to make it work. But we're going to continue to keep pushing away and seeing what other options we have.
All right, is that good then? So all in favor then of approving the personal adjustments, please, appointments and adjustments, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 6-0. The next item is item H, which is on page 38, and that's the donations from the Community Foundation of Northeast Iowa. The superintendent's recommendation is that the Board of Education accept and acknowledge with gratitude the $4,407 donation from the Community Foundation of Northeast Iowa on behalf of the Dr. Carlene Bradford Phillips Fund and the John and Marge Young Family Fund, supporting students and programming at Carver Academy and West High School.
So moved.
Second.
And discussion, Stacy pulled that?
I just pulled it so that we could individually thank them. These smaller donations, they really do add up. So I just wanted to have their names said out loud.
And I see we have Josh Payton, the Carver Academy principal here. Do you have uses for the dollars that you're getting, if you would mind sharing with us? Thank you. Put you on the spot there, Josh.
It's okay though. Yeah, so as we continue getting through year one, you know, and now we've seen kind of the systems that have been in place, but just continuing to reinforce those student engagement, you know, our PBIS, positive behavior intervention supports, and just allowing our students to feel welcome and come into the school. So we utilize these donations just to help as a supplemental resource for our students to get maybe a little extra of that attention, or or some extra resources as we see fit from the teachers if they come to us with a unique experience that we want to get something to them in their hands right away, versus maybe working with a school foundation that may take a little bit more time.
Perfect. And your letter that you sent to the board was excellent. Have you gotten much feedback on that yet?
Yeah, well, so we got the community barbecue coming up on that Tuesday after Labor Day. We've gotten a lot of Facebook traction already. It's really becoming a bigger event than what we anticipated. We were shooting small, especially early on, but now we've got the community, the Carver community is really coming out in force, and they see the positive approaches that we're taking in and building and strengthening that community business partnership with Carver Academy itself. So, and our big purpose was to have the community see us outside of the building, but then have our building see us be out in the community, with everybody that we serve. So I think that's where the excitement's really coming in, and yeah, it's going to be a really good event where we're crossing our fingers for one big donation, a business to come in with the meat and the barbecue and maybe some workers to help do all that, and really just building up the community to have tables. And so if you've been to the Juneteenth celebration, I talked to Tanya today and just said, hey, what ideas do you have? What recommendations would you give, advice? And just really trying to enhance it that way for the community.
And I'm sure you can reach out. I would be happy to volunteer that night, so I'm sure other board members might want to too. so-
Absolutely. If you're good with a grill, we'll take you.
Well, no, I didn't say that.
Listen, I just need to.
I can pour water.
Don't run out of food, don't run out of food.
Well, I mean, we're getting like, Sweets and Treats donated 5 gallons of freshly squeezed lemonade for the event. And two, it's a way for the community to put themselves in front of our families. So like, one of the requirements I have for those businesses that are donating is, hey, make sure you have your business cards, you're wearing a polo, you're doing something that's a promotion for you too. And so it's just a way to enhance those partnerships and awareness.
Great. Well, thank you very much. So, sorry for that little dovetail, but I saw Jess sitting there and I thought, how great. So, all in favor then of accepting the Northeast Iowa Community Foundation donations for Carver and West, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 6-0. The next item on our agenda was be item J, which is on page 45, and the superintendent's recommendation is that the Board of Education approve the service agreement with Leader in Me at a total cost of $65,100 for the 23-24 school year.
So moved.
Yes, second.
And discussion.
Yeah. It does a good job of describing kind of what it is, but it doesn't describe what goods and services that we actually receive for the $65,000.
Sure.
Hello, everyone. So Leader in Me, the staff, really Melissa and Shantavia, do all types of support to our students. They offer professional development to both staff and students. I think, Jared, we're having Shantavia come in and do some work with our DLT, but student-specific, a whole lot of training, training and resources. I had the opportunity this year for the second year in a row to work with Hoover on mock interviews. So they bring individuals from the community in, we sit down and we take students through mock interviews. So it's really just that training, learning, and any additional resources to support the program.
So we being who?
What do you mean?
We bring them in, we have interviews and stuff. Does Leader in Me, is there staff hours that are provided or materials that are provided?
Yes.
How does that work?
So there is an actual curriculum. Stephen Covey's work, Melissa and Shantavia are the two that I spoke of. They support the work here in the Cedar Valley, working with Waterloo schools and other districts. But this $5,000 is, in my opinion, a very small amount for the work that they do. Again, goes right back to our kids and providing those experiences. And those are the two individuals that are the contacts that I most speak with.
So what about materials? Are there materials involved?
I mean, Stephen Covey's book, as a building is going through professional development, they provide those resources, and I'm sure those resources have cost. But in terms of a material list of all things that they supply to us, I don't have that right in front of me, but like I said, between the professional development, the time that they spend training, and offering support to our students and staff, again, I would say that $65,000 to me seems reasonable.
Well, the kids do get some stuff that they, like, physically work with too, right? I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, those things come from the program, correct?
I mean, yeah,
I mean, some of it I'm sure is downloaded or.
Right. So Stephen Covey, it's a curriculum, right?
Yeah.
It's a book. There's several books actually, and there's a curriculum attached to it. So it's, but I would honestly say that the resources are a small portion of the service that we receive. Like I said, on-the-job training, the coaching of our staff, within our buildings to be able to provide ongoing PD to our people. Another example is going back to that Hoover mock interview. That took time and effort and organization, and like I said, I don't think it's the material cost is taking a bunch of the $65,000 as much as it is the learning that occurs over the course of the year for our buildings.
I'm just trying to get a feel for how many hours of Leader in Me staff we receive each year, if any.
So they serve, I think I counted, it was 13 of our buildings. And that is, I mean, that varies depending on where they are in the process. Some are just onboarding, some are lighthouse schools, Expo is a lighthouse school, and so, of course, their interaction with Melissa and Chantavia is much different than a school that's onboarding, but that could be training anywhere from once a month to a couple times a year. In some cases, it's one-to-one coaching that happens far more regular than once a month. So it really depends on the building, where they are on their journey. But I know that, in all honesty, they are at our beck and call. If we ask for support, they're willing to help. I gave the example of them supporting DLT with a little bit of our own professional development. So I can't quantify their hours, but I know that they put in the time.
I'm also thinking, Lyle, we could probably reach out to Melissa and get a breakdown for you, if you want.
I just don't know whether they come in and once a year and, give 3 hours of training to a school, or whether
So it's hard for me to say. I'm like, gosh, I just know when I sat down with Chantavia and Melissa last year, and they listed off the supports they give our school, and I didn't know what the cost was. When they said it was $5,000 per school, just having 15 years of knowing costs for programs, I couldn't believe how cheap it was. Again, I just feel like what we're getting for the $5,000 per school is pretty good. But we can reach out to Melissa. I wish we had a little bit more on the invoice there, so we get a little bit better idea of what there is, as opposed to just one annual school membership, $5,000 per times 13 or 14. So we can reach out to Melissa and get that.
Well, and the Leader Valley offsets all the other costs. This is the only cost that the district is incurring. So Leader Valley pays for all the programs in all the schools, and then the $5,000 is just the district portion. So it would be interesting to know what that total budget is for Leader and Me, because we have 13 schools,
Yeah. And I guess my other question is, how do we measure success?
With this program?
Yeah.
I think it's the student experience. I mean, I'll speak to Carver. When I was, a principal at Carver, I fought for our students at Carver having an opportunity to showcase their leadership. And it's all about readiness. Obviously, you have to work with the adults in this program first. So I would say the student experience is the way by which I would measure Leader and Me's success. Those Hoover mock interviews were amazing. It was an experience that was authentic. We're taking students through an interview process that I don't know that they would otherwise get, to looking at me as a stranger, right? So I don't know. Student experience is what I would say.
And I've seen it even in the elementary. The kids in elementary are really, they have certain roles and leadership goals, or what they need to do to become a goal. They get to lead tours in the school. They get to be reading buddies for the younger kids. I mean, it gives them a sense of leadership, but also a sense of pride in what they can do with good behavior, and to learn to become a leader. So I've seen that in the elementary level. So I don't know how quantifiable that is, but I just think that, you know, like we're saying it's great to send a kid to a ball game. It's great to teach a kid to be a leader. you
And I
know,
agree,
in
Sue,
my-
because even like when they do teacher conferences, my kids were at Hoover, the kid leads it. That's part of the leader in me. So the child walks through the artifacts and the teacher's there to support it. So that all stems from leader in me training, correct?
Absolutely.
Is there a reason, though, that the other buildings don't do it? Just wondering.
As I mentioned, it's all about readiness. And so Leader in Me talks a lot about where adults currently are with their understanding of students as leaders. And so the first phase of Leader in Me is really working on the adults, period. And so Melissa Reed and Shantavia are very, very cautious about forcing the program. So they offer it up, and when the buildings feel like they're ready. And I've been getting nudges here and there, but it's really about their readiness and where they are on the journey.
Although I will say I've seen some of the quote-unquote leadership roles were not very, I would say, ideal in some of the cases. Like they really weren't really, they put some positions out there, and I just thought they were like, okay, this is not going to side somebody to be a leader. Well, an example would be like, I think one of the buildings had kids cleaning up lunch trays. Well, that doesn't really, it might teach service, but it doesn't necessarily teach leadership, you know, and you can get some hierarchical things where, or certain kids get maybe better perceived leadership position, while others get, you know, where they're maybe not all equal per se. So,
But isn't that life?
yeah, but
Life is not equal.
But
Life
if we're
is not
creating an
fair.
environment that kids are put in hierarchy ourselves, that's maybe not ideal. That, oh, this kid is less than this because you only get this through the, you gotta be careful, because then that could create bullying situations or something like that, you know?
Right, but potentially they may rotate too. I don't know their format,
Not
so
all of them
I
really did
can't speak
rotate,
to that.
so.
But I'm just saying that sometimes jobs that we don't like build our character the most.
Yeah, but not until they're gonna be made fun of
Right.
or
Yeah.
looked down upon, so we gotta be real careful not to artificially create hierarchy in our buildings that, in our student structure that we don't want to, so.
So if that would be a point you would take back to them, that we would appreciate.
My son Jackson had to, as a part of his Leader in Me experience at Pointer, he had to do the announcements, and it wasn't his thing, but it was one that he grew from, right? So he got to do the announcements, is what we said. But yeah, I can totally understand how certain students are not quite ready for the experience that adults think they're ready for, and so it's always good feedback.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Sheena, so much. So all in favor of approving the service agreement with Leader in Me for the cost of $65,100, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. Thank you again. Now, Exhibit K was pulled, and that is the Spark Wheel Memorandum of Understanding. And we also have Sheena and Josh here for their expertise, and the superintendent's recommendation is that the Board of Education approve the Spark Wheel Memorandum of Understanding for the 23-24 school year at a cost of approximately $40,000 to work with our students.
So moved.
Second.
And discussion, please.
Yeah, my question on this one is kind of similar to the last one, and that is, what does Spark Wheel bring to the table that we don't already have? It's partner with service agencies, corporations, foundations, and community to address non-educational resources. Don't we have access to these resources without Spark Wheel?
So I'll speak very quickly from my seat. I think the biggest thing is having a person, right? A person to connect our families to that particular resource. Again, when I was at Carver, it was Ed Madlock, and the story I always share is we had a family, a mother show up. Her son was on the football team. She showed up distraught because the son didn't have cleats. He didn't have the proper gear. And so Ed, CIS, Spark Wheel, coordinator, went to the local shoe store and came back with a pair of shoes for the family, so that student was able to participate. I'm not saying that I couldn't have done that, you know, as a building principal, or a math teacher couldn't have done that, but this person, that was their you know, that is their responsibility, is to provide those vital resources for our students that are non-instructional. Josh is here to speak on behalf of his experience as well.
Yeah, and that, I would agree, there's a lot, you know, that seems redundant, but they are really like the daily boots on the ground. You know, the way we've utilized them is that we put them in with our students, and they build the relationships with the families. They're helping us at lunch, they're watching the hallways, and they're just building those relationships with kids, so then the kids feel comfortable to come to them. Once they kind of realize, well, what they do, what they provide, but then also, they'll help us identify needs in the building. So if we have, the one at Central, when I was talking to Mr. Cody, was a hygiene etiquette class. And so they would pull a couple kids in, or they'd pull individuals in and call it etiquette class and just say, hey, here's how we can help you here, provide them some resources. Over at Carver, we had the Girls Code group that started in the spring, just to help some of our female students learn some social skills beyond just some problem solving. And they worked through it as a group, and then Ms. Walker would, you know, just throughout the day be reinforcement to those girls from that personal level. That sometimes is a challenge as an administrator, because we bring a different title with us, and so having that extra resource has been beneficial for our students to build those connections and skill sets.
Does Carver have a family support worker?
We have a shared one with Central, yes.
You share one. So do their, I don't want to say job duties, but do their job duties with Spark Wheel overlap? Or is this just a better support, or are they very separate?
I would say they work hand in hand. We have them tied, especially going into this year, as we tighten up our systems at Carver, working with our PBIS Universal team, but then they're also going to work specifically with the Tier 2 and Tier 3 teams to help build those relationships. They're going to reach out with families, so if Ms. Diedrich, who's our family support worker, comes back to the building and, you know, after doing an attendance check or whatever it could be, she can come to Ms. Walker and say, okay, hey, I got this family, here's the things that we need to work on. They collaboratively do it as a group, along with the rest of the school staff that are part of those teams.
Thank you.
So is there a person full-time, part-time? How does that
She's,
work?
so Ms. Walker's full-time with us at Carver, and then Mr. Cody's full-time at Central.
So there's two full-time people under this contract.
Correct.
And what population do they target?
They go any student that has a need, and they can fill that need for that student.
And who identifies the need?
That's with the Tier 2, the teams that they can work with. If it's a student that may be at risk or is showing signs of, you know, not showing up to school, or we're seeing behaviors or academic struggles, working with that team, they'll identify that student and provide supports.
So the child has to be Tier 2, though?
Not necessarily. They also provide universal supports. So another example, Ms. Walker, for Black History Month, had a trivia contest that she ran at lunchtime and provided students reinforcements that way, you know, little prizes and things like that, just to keep kids engaged with the school, along with their school goals that we have set to be all-encompassing.
So
Do you know typically, like last year, how many students did this person meet with, like at Carver or at Central on a regular basis?
So their caseloads overall were 109 students that they would have interactions with. But that's very specific interactions with a specific purpose. So if it was attendance, if it was grades, if it was hygiene, food. I know some of the food numbers that, you know, I had pulled it was 300 students for 575 items out of Carver last year. You know, so if it was providing them a snack, if it was just seeing them in the hallway, hey, you need something, and then they provided that support to the students.
Yeah, because you couldn't count, like, who was in the lunchroom doing
Right.
trivia, yeah, okay.
Have you seen any, like, positive results from this, like students that are like at East or West or, you know, Expo, WCC at this time that went through this program and maybe have been, you know, a protege of the program that have been successful?
So that's a little loaded for me, just because last year was my first year, and we brought in a brand-new person in October, because initially, Denisha Arsenault was the one that was scheduled to be it. She was the head secretary at Carver. I begged and pleaded her to come back to be the head secretary since I was new. But I know with the program being part of the school district since 2016, I believe, was initial start off. You know, I think working with some of those, we could find some of those products to see the success stories of that supports and that connection that Spark Wheel connected with.
Just from a systems perspective, like this, we also approved the IJAG, which we get employees for $20,000 a year. And these are some strong, I mean, there's no, we've got some good people in these positions. And so from my perspective, just, these are bargains toward, I mean, talk about the best bargain for our district. We get 2 strong employees full-time because the program pays for the other parts of the salary. So, that's just, I'm a big fan of this. IJAG, which is another example of where we approved that just a few minutes ago. Just from my perspective, if we can get employees for that cost, like, it's a no-brainer in my mind.
Not just that, but it's a bargain in the fact that every single thing that person takes care of for that student can multiply instructional time because the teacher is not having to take care of it student by student and student in the classroom. So as far as supporting our teachers and protecting instructional time, this is a great bargain.
Okay, just real quick, so I'll just quickly tell a story. So my daughter was at Central, and Dina was the support worker there, not support, but she was the person there, and my daughter is now a sophomore at ISU, still has a relationship with Dina. Hands down, gave her the best support that she needed going through that transition of middle school. And I think, you talk about, who the tier 1, tier 2, didn't even know that was a thing. It was just because it was a person who wanted the support. And I think the relationship part is by far, you can't pay for that. And so I would say that if you can have more people who can, because we always talk about the village part, and, and teachers are overwhelmed and they want to do more, but sometimes they can't. But if you have somebody like Dina who was like, I got you, I will take care of you no matter what. And so that relationship is still very much supported, and it's unbelievable. I can think of all the time that Dina would pick up students who didn't have rides, and she would call me, she was like, listen, they're around the corner. Can you get them? Those type of people is worth $20,000.
Well, and I
By far.
think too, from the previous conversation about staffing, when we talk about certified staff, you gotta meet these requirements, but being able to pull people from our community to support our kids, minus that certified tag, it goes a long ways. And to kind of go back to when President Flint brought me up unexpectedly, that's the whole purpose of what we're trying to do, even with our letters that I sent out, was to bring people in to make that connection with Carver. And I told some of the businesses, especially the smaller ones, I said, we don't want your money. We need you as people being in our community. And it could be as simple as once a week, your company comes in and has somebody at the front door greeting kids in. And doing those little things, because that will just continue to strengthen what we do. And so, to, Ms. Johnson's story, that's what it's about, is a relationship piece. And the Spark Wheel, they have the time, they have the resources, they're not tied to a classroom, they're all over the building, connecting with kids, and it may be what you need, it could be a celebration. It's just whatever is on the spot at that moment when they have that conversation.
Society requires that we raise the students more than we used to. And in order for us to do our work of teaching them academics, we've first got to get through this thing of taking care of their needs. It's what society's expecting of schools right now, fortunately or unfortunately, so this is part of it.
I'm just wondering, could there be more of these in other buildings?
That sounds like a Sheena question, so I'll slide over.
I'm always a proponent of supporting our students, and so one of the things that we're attempting to do through the family support worker position is iron out some of the services we can duplicate from Spark Wheel. I like growing our own. I think it's critical to equip our teachers and our family support workers, our principals, all the people with the skills to do some of the same work. If you say yes, I'm always a proponent of asking, because it is truly a beneficial thing for Carver kids and Central kids, a non-judgmental relationship, period.
So they have a facility or whatever in Waterloo, is that what I'm understanding?
So.
You said it's out of Kansas, right?
Yeah, these two individuals that support Waterloo Schools are local, so they live here.
Okay.
And they are housed at the building, so their offices are at Carver and Central. Their director is out of Kansas, and she comes, does evaluation meetings with the principals, myself. They are based out of Kansas.
So how did we decide what buildings, like, would they have more that they would, like, that we could hire from them? Like, is that, or do they designate how many they're going to have in each community, or?
Yeah, so I am not completely sure what in 2015, 16, what the reason was for adding additional or adding these two positions, but I am confident that they would be willing to expand into other buildings.
I'm thinking
We just have to
started-
match.
I'm thinking we started with Carver, I don't remember if this one or IJAG, we started with Carver, then we added, a year or two later, we added Central. I don't remember if it's this one or it was IJAG.
I with high school first.
Huh?
I with high school first.
Yeah, one of them we added Central after Carver or something, yeah, I've been a few years back, I remember that discussion. So,
This is a little bit of an aside, and I understand if you're not prepared to answer it, but I noticed Spark Wheel is listed as an independent contractor. Okay. So, let's say a middle school student is expelled. All right. The district, as I understand it, is limited in what academic support or social support they can provide during that expulsion period. Could Sparkwheel fill that gap?
That is definitely not a question that I'm prepared to answer. I don't know what their providing of services looks like for a student that's not enrolled in our district, or the one-off scenarios, but I can certainly look into it to ask if they have those type of cases outside of our experience here in
I think
Waterloo.
we have a gap there, and, I think just exploring possible ways to fill that gap. But because they're independent contractor, it may very well be possible.
Sure,
If you'd get back with me on that.
I will.
Okay, any other questions for Sheena and Josh? Okay, all in favor then of approving the Spark Wheel MOU for the 23-24 school year, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Our next item is, IJAG was approved, so we're good with that. Item M, which is the West High School gym floor replacement change order number 3. The superintendent's recommendation is that the Board of Education approve West High School gym floor replacement change order number 3 as an add of $24,279.85 as presented. And we do have Zach Kelly here, and also Kate is here also. And if we need any questions, Jeff may be able to help us a little bit also. And I'll get the motion on the table. Is there?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And then discussion. I actually pulled this because this has been a thorn in my side from the very beginning. And I'm like, now they're coming back to ask us to pay $25,000 more for a project that was delayed. We had to bring in other people. So how can, in good faith, it's hard for me to say, yes, let's pay more because they did a crappy job.
nicely put.
Yes, so it was a rough start. You know, when I started in this role, this was my first project. So it wasn't a good start. So, yes, I'm still here, I guess that's a good thing. So we worked out, obviously this change order didn't go to the board. They just went ahead and did it. So that's why there's kind of a gap in this. We're coming back to this now a year later. We've had some back and forth. We had our district attorney involved just to make sure that we were following everything correctly that needed to be. He had stated, since we benefited from this, that it's hard to argue it, but we can negotiate. So They took actually off their profit and overhead, and the cost just to do straight floor leveling was $34,300. And then we also negotiated to not pay the 5% retainage, which would be the 10,000 and some odd cents.
Good job, good negotiating.
So we did get that just because there was costs incurred on relocating and just the headache overall. So definitely wasn't a good go, but we feel that this probably was the best resolution. And
Having to come back at it afterward is always harder than, taking care of it from the beginning. It really does stink that they went ahead and did it without a purchase order. But the attorney is right. We do get the benefit of the gym floor being finished, and we would be held accountable for that in court. So the negotiations that you've made are, I wouldn't say a good compromise because nobody likes that, but a good compromise compared to what would happen if we took this case to court.
absolutely.
But, so we're addressing issues that they did on their work, correct? Because it's saying to address floor leveling issues. So is that not the fault of them that they did not do it properly the first time?
No, that's not the case. The floor leveling was to deal with a condition that was hidden below the floor that nobody could really understand until they tore the floor out. And because they were so behind on schedule, now that's no fault of anybody, that was just them. They went ahead and moved quickly to do the floor leveling without a signed change order. So they went ahead and did the work. The work would have had to have been done to complete the floor adequately.
So no matter what company, they still would have had to do the leveling, is what you mean, Kate?
Yes, that is what I mean.
So is what you're saying is, if they'd done the change order, we would have had to say yes, because we had to get it leveled, we had to have a gym floor, and we would have ended up paying more than what we're paying here for this $24,000, because they would have been able to charge us for their profit and their 5% and all that stuff. So as unfortunate as it seems, we're sort of getting a bargain on the problem that we had, even though the
looking at
whole thing was
dollars.
delayed.
If you're looking at dollars.
Yes, if you're looking at dollars, right. Not looking at time, because we were all really upset with how long
Yeah.
that took.
It was a headache, for sure.
But there's a question of whether it's foreseeable or not during the bid. If it was foreseeable when they bid it, then it's a different situation. So,
The only way that I think that you could have fully understood the scope of the work needed would to have been to have torn out a larger area of the floor prior to preparing the bid documents.
They only tore on a small section, right?
Yeah,
Kinda
we only,
back behind the bleacher.
Underneath the
Yeah.
bleachers.
right, only about a square foot was cut out, and the entire system below it was not torn out because it had to be tested for any asbestos-containing materials.
Whose
So all that
decision was, I'm sorry, whose decision was that to only take out, was that us or them?
It was Marty Metcalf at the time.
Zach's, like, it wasn't me.
But he couldn't, I mean, he had no choice, honestly.
No, I understand, I just
He would
wondered,
have had
if
to have it abated.
it had to be that little.
Yeah.
so how could the floor have been leveled without the under?
Well, it was
layman?
because the entire system had to be pulled out, and by doing that, we found the condition of the concrete underneath all of the wood and the sleepers that are under the wood.
Yeah,
So it was like a big bumpy mess. And so that they couldn't put in the new sleeper system below the new floor until they leveled the floor.
so the old system was customized from one point to another in order to create a level floor above it?
They created a level floor over the kind of bumpy concrete that was originally there.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
No, I just think we're all gonna have a begrudging vote on this, so.
I'm guessing this won't be unanimous vote.
Okay, so all in favor then of the change order for the West Side floor, add, please state aye.
Aye.
Chair is opposed. Motion carries 5-1. Thank you.
I know there's another agenda item, but I don't remember what it was.
Yes, there is one more for you, Kate, and that is now item N, and that is the change order for Central Middle School. And the superintendent's recommendation is that the Board of Education approve the Central Middle School remodel Waterloo Career Center expansion project, change order number 16, as an add of $37,426.50 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Whoever. Well, just do it.
Oh, and discussion.
My question on this is mostly just trying to understand the allowances and the amount spent so far on the allowances. Let's start with the $28,856,000. That was the actual bid amount. Is that correct?
Don't have it in front of me. Okay. Yeah, original contract sum was $28,856,000.
Excluding allowances?
No, that includes allowances.
Okay, so then if we go to the allowances, first of all, it seems circumstantial that the balance on several of these is zero, that there's been a number of change orders and they happen to add up to exactly the allowance. How did that happen?
Well, we do that because, so let's say you have $10,000 left in the allowance
Yeah,
that you haven't spent, that hasn't been spent through a change. And a change comes in that falls under that category of allowance,
Yeah.
that's $11,000.
yeah,
We would zero out the allowance and put at 10,000 and take that 1,000 and push it over to the change order side of the ledger.
okay. So there's a balance on allowance number 5, I think, of 3,600. A small amount of balance on a balance on 7 of 30,000, 8, 16,000, and 9, 50,000. Is that correct?
It depends on which, is change order 16 the last one? Okay, so according to the change order, allowance summary, allowance number 1 has no balance. Allowance number 2 has no balance. Graphically, these are really weird to see. Which one is your question, Lyle?
So that means on those, the actual cost of changes exceeded the allowance.
If it went to 0?
Yeah.
Probably, yes.
All right. So, but then the last ones, there's several that add up to 50, 80, about $100,000 balance.
If you add up all of the remaining change allowances,
Yeah.
yeah. Some of them will not be used
Okay. So
Because
does,
of categories?
because of the category they're in, they will not get used.
all right. So we're above the contract sum, the original contract sum, by about 500,000. Is the 100,000, is that still available, or has that already been plowed in there?
Anything that's left in here as a balance remaining on an allowance is available to apply to the change if it falls under the category of the allowance. If there's $10,000, so one of these I know is over excavation. I don't remember which number it is. We didn't do any over excavation. I think it was $50,000. So 60, it's probably allowance number 8.
So the money's not fungible, it
that's
has to
graphics.
stay in its category.
That is historically how it has worked with Waterloo schools. Now, all school districts don't do that, but Waterloo Schools has.
So if we spend, let's says 60,000 for environmental graphics package.
Yeah, and you've already spent about $9,500 of that allowance.
Yeah. So if we don't spend any more, let's say that's it for there. Does that subtract from the 29,000,000,
It will. You will
329?
get all that cash back when we close out the project.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, I can tell you that some of these will, I mean, we're not going to hit $60,000 on environmental graphics in this project. There's just not that much left to do. We already, the 13,000 and change for change order 15 is probably all we're going to spend on plans. So there's half of that you'll get back. Over excavation for allowance number 6, $30,000. Ship
Okay.
sailed, you're gonna get that back, that, we're not gonna spend that money. There's nothing to over excavate, the building's already there.
Okay, so what's coming that we haven't seen yet?
What's coming that you haven't seen yet? There's probably a few door hardware changes at the front door. Yeah, I think Mona's gonna take care of that one. A Noel projection screen, no, that one will be.
Yep.
There's a projection screen that was not included in the bid documents in the Commons.
But nothing,
Yeah, I'm not imagining anything really, really dramatic. Door hardware, there's some trim that we had to add around the tile in the Commons to keep
Okay.
it smooth.
Big cost, I don't think there's.
I think we're running out of time.
and are they on schedule?
Yes, they are on schedule.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank
Well,
you.
the other thing to note when you're talking about the costs here, which is not in this change order, is that there is an open alternate that is written into the contract for a second re-injection well, right? That will not be required. And we're waiting for all the final paperwork on that, but it's pretty much understood that you will not need it, which means that alternate, although it was accepted at the beginning, it was always understood in the contract documents, if that well was not needed, that cost would not be incurred, and therefore it would be deducted from the overall cost of the project at the end. So there's about $200,000 sitting there.
But it's in the,
It's in the current
Right.
contract
All right.
amount. It will be deducted when the project closes out.
okay.
So in summation, if we don't use the dollars, we will get those refunded at the end.
For
It-
allowances
yeah.
and for the well alternate, yes.
Perfect. Okay. Any other further questions? All in favor then of accepting the change order, please state aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, no opposition, and motion carries 6-0. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, we're done with the consent agenda. Next item is Exhibit O, and this is the IASB Legislative Action Priorities. And I did ask each of you for your input on that. I tallied, and we came up with, these were the top 5 from all 7 board members. So the superintendent's recommendation is that the Board of Education approve as its top 4 priorities for the 23 session of the General Assembly of the following resolutions: student achievement, school safety, dropout, at risk, and teacher recruitment and licensure. Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And discussion. So basically, I explained that, and with all your input, we just came up with these. They were all pretty consistent, a few different, but mainly at least the top 3 to 4 were on pretty much 6 to 7, maybe 1 or 2 of 7 to 7, so. All right, so all in favor then of accepting our top 4 priorities, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion has now carried 6-0. We are now on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, well, things are getting really busy here, as you guys can imagine. Just two things I want to highlight real quick. Opening day is this Thursday, which is crazy that we're already there. I feel like we were just letting students go, but the school board, you're all invited. I believe Pam has sent you guys a couple of reminders. We've got some fun things up our sleeve. I think it's going to be another energetic and fun morning. Pam's laughing a little bit, but yeah, it's going to be a good day. So hopefully you guys can make it. I know Sue's going to give a big speech here as well. She's going to be prepared for that, so it should be fun. The second thing is this Saturday, I had a chance to go attend this last year. I'm going to go again this year, but it's the Taking Back Our School community event. It's the Back to School Bash. It's at Sullivan Park this Saturday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. I will be there. I know there's a lot going on there. We're handing out backpacks. Well, we are not. There's the organization there. I think it's Boys and Girls Clubs there, handing out hundreds of backpacks, I want to say, to students who need those. Also, I'm excited. We just came out of a meeting today talking with our district leadership team, Sue included there, about just making sure that we really are visible at events this year. So Pam has helped, created a list of 40 events throughout the year that are just high visibility events across the community, in the district and the community. So each of the DLT members will be signing up for, well, there's 3 mandatory events, but then 6 additional. So you're going to see DLT at a lot of events this year. So we're excited to, and we're going to make sure there's at least a couple of us there at each one. So I'm real excited for that. And 2, we're just super excited to have Dr. Sue on board. She's really come in and she's got a wealth of knowledge. She's been doing this for a long time. She's worked with a lot of districts and just super excited. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to say while we've got you here. We certainly can.
Let me just tell you, I wasn't looking for a job when I got the call from Waterloo. But I have a consulting company that keeps me busy about 50% of the time, where I travel around the country and help school districts develop strategies to close the achievement gap. And like I told the team here when we met, when I found out Waterloo was looking and they needed some help, more time to find the right person for this permanent job, I couldn't say no. Having been a professor at UNI, recently retired in 2019, many of your teachers I helped become principals, and principals become superintendents. Yeah. So when I looked around the room, I know Sheena's gone, but she's one of our grads, and Amy Schmidt and Megan Allen. I mean, a lot of these young adults and medium-sized adults I had in class. So it's just been a real joy. I can't tell you how grateful I am for this beautiful opportunity to hang out in Waterloo for a year. So thank you for that, and please reach out at any time if there's anything I can do to support you or to answer any questions that you might have.
What did you say before? What did we say? Like, the best hire is always the person that's not looking for a job? Yeah, so.
So that's it. It's busy. It's going to be a busy week. Busy next week. We got school starting on the 23rd and 24th, and we're excited though.
Well, we're going to start tonight with Janelle.
I am really excited that school is starting again. I have seen the sports teams working out and the marching bands working out, and those are the kids that are engaged, the ones that are in the extracurriculars and the classroom co-curricular things. Those are the kids that are engaged. We get to see those first, and I'm just really excited for opening day and excited for school to start and really excited for all the new teachers.
Lyle.
Just welcome Dr. Sue, and just note that true to form, hot weather waited for school to start, and so we may have to do a little bit of prior planning this year because it seems to be more severe than normal.
Okay. Well, it's one thing we cannot control, Lyle. We cannot. Stacy.
First, I want to say hi and thank you to everyone who stuck through this long meeting. Jamie, how do you say your last name? Oberhoy. Okay, so that helps because I was going to talk about the Be Smart meeting that we had. So Pam, who somehow manages to have to work no matter what, so Pam helped us organize a meeting, and she came to it, which was extremely helpful because she knows how boards run. So, this board. Pam was there, I was there, Jamie and Kristen Stanford, is that right? Yeah, were there. They brought the program to us, did a presentation. Sheena and Dan Huff were there as well. So they came and they presented everything, and it was a lot more than what we had seen that night. So they really went into everything. They gave us the materials to look through, and then we had a really thoughtful discussion, leaning heavily on Pam and Dan and Sheena as to what are some ways that we can start maybe using some of this, this gun safety stuff in Waterloo before we get to the point that maybe we're ready to adopt the entire curriculum, or if maybe we decide we want a hybrid curriculum, whatever we want to do. So it was really, I think it was really fruitful, Pam, and so I appreciated you getting all that organized. And I'm looking forward to October 23rd. That's the meeting, right? I think
so.
Okay.
What's the date?
That it'll be brought to the rest of us so that we can look at it together. The other thing is, on the same day as the Take Back Our Community that Jared was talking about, an hour before, what time did you say it started at noon?
10 o'clock is the human reach.
11, so at 10 o'clock, there's the march, and that's in Lincoln Park, correct? So, any of us that can go, I think that as a board, that's a great way for us to connect with our community and our community to connect with us. So, I think that's about it. If you haven't registered your kids yet, please do so.
Jesse?
Well, first I want to say thanks to Dan and Zach for their efforts on school safety. The meeting earlier today was really good, and Matt O'Brien too, in his discussion. Their work on the grants to help secure our buildings and our staff, our students, you know, give them a peace of mind that they're safe when they come here. And so appreciate the work they're doing there and our continued investment in those, and hopefully some potential conversations how we can further fund additional positions to help with that. And also appreciation to work at Sheena and Josh, and then we're talking on there. That's some really good stuff, some good partnerships there. So that's really good to add, you know, more resources kind of help with those areas there. So I really appreciate the efforts being done on each of those fronts, and looking forward to start a good school year.
Thank you, Jesse. India?
I just want to again welcome Dr. Sue and Jeff Sommerfeld. I've seen your name on a lot of stuff, so it's great to see your face. I just want to also piggyback on Dr. Smith's comment about the TBLC, Take Back the Community. Everything's free. So food, backpacks, events, all the stuff that's there. Just, you know, community come out and support, but everything is free. I also want to just remind families that we do have a rolling start. So just be mindful of the dates when school does start for the kiddos. So August 23rd, it is grades K, 1st, 2nd, 6th, and 9. And then August 24th, everybody else. So we're looking forward to having another fun-filled year. And that's it. Thank you.
And just a little bit regarding the rolling start, it has been so effective for our kids. And so anybody that isn't familiar with it and think it's confusing, it's actually very, very helpful for the students, for the kids. These young kids and the transition years get an opportunity to have a day in the buildings without other people. It's just their cohorts from their grade. And I think it's just a super effective idea, and it's been very successful. So the reasoning behind that, though said, seems a little crazy, but it is very effective. So I kudos to our staffs for pulling this off, because it's a little confusing, but it's excellent. And also, the first football game of the year is the 25th, which will highlight the bands. It's the East-West game. So Mark that on your calendars. It could be 100 degrees, so bring your fan with spray. And also, the event at Carver that Josh had mentioned, that is September 5th, so we can talk a little bit more about that at our next board meeting on the 28th. So, and also, I would like to welcome Dr. Sue, and just Jeff, the man behind the paper, has now appeared, so. But we just thank you. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank all the organizations that support this district. I mean, just looking tonight about all the groups and the families and the scholarships and the grants. And I mean, without those dollars, we couldn't give these special programs and special opportunities, and specifically the McElroy Trust. I mean, that is just an amazing gift to our students and to our staff. So thank you again for that. And with that said, could I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 6-0. Have a good rest of your evening, and thank you. We are adjourned.